All right, we're going to do this really quick. I am back from traveling in Salt Lake City. Nice to meet a bunch of you guys at MTG Summit and Dragonsteel. I got to interview someone really cool while I was out there. So we'll have a very non esports related interview hitting the channel soon. Please support it if you want to support me and the things I'm passionate about. But we now have our next updated roster projections. We're just, a couple days out from free agency officially kicking off on Tuesday, and I think I know almost all the teams with either 90 or 50% confidence levels. Quick shout out to Alienware for sponsoring this video. You can check out their stuff at the link right there that I'm pointing at, and doing so actually really supports the channel because we get a portion of that. They've got Black Friday sales coming up. So the way that's going to work is I am going to show you stuff that is a green, yellow, or I call tan bait. I don't know what to call it. Anyway, that's 90% confidence, 50% confidence, 10% confidence. People who followed this channel for a long time know the way this works. But just as a quick recap, nothing can be locked until the 22nd because that's when contracts start to get signed. Things can still change. Last year, things changed very last minute with one of the teams. And that's why I would never have 100% confidence until something is locked or contract has been done. But yeah, let's dive in. First off, C9. Not too many changes here. I think most people know what this roster is supposed to look like already. Fudge, Blabber, Diplex, Berserker, Sven. Really love the fact that they are keeping together this lineup that actually won summer. Oftentimes you see teams blow up their rosters and all that stuff even when they've been winning. But it's cool to see that they are just making a change in the mid lane. And so there you go. Next up, we have TSM. So this has already been reported, I think. By the way, a bunch of the stuff is out there from Wooloo or other outlets. Please go check all those outlets out. And I'm not trying to not source them or credit them. It's just everybody's kind of putting everything out there. So, but everybody who's doing coverage of the offseason, they're doing great. Go check out their stuff. TSM, Solo, Boogie, Maple. This is the one place where I have absolutely no idea who their ADC is. I'm going to assume that it's a random North American player that's been around for a while. And then Chime. Next up, TL. So this is interesting. We've got 50% confidence on Summit. I've been hearing the name a lot for this position, but no one I think is completely sure, so I'm not going to put it in green. I probably could put it in green. I debated it, but yeah. Probably a Korean import because this is almost certainly going to be a full Korean speaking team. They just announced Marin as their coach. Harry, Yan, and Core JJ in the mid ADC and support positions. So we'll see. It would be crazy to see Summit back in the league. I mean, at least he'd boomerang back into the LCS. And we'll see if he can stick around longer than a split this time if this does end up happening. But yeah, that would be your Korean-speaking roster that I alluded to in my predictions video. Next up, EG. So instead of Impact, this would look to be a Someday roster. Inspired, JoJo, FBI, and Vulcan. This is 90% confidence. I'm almost certain that they've basically locked their roster. Again, things can fall through, but I don't know. I'm very curious. I don't think FBI is Danny. And so I'm sad that things did not work out and Danny couldn't come back into the league, though I wish him obviously the best with anything he's going through. Someday is funny because kind of similar to Impact in a lot of different ways. So I think this kind of brings their starting point a little lower, but we'll see. Maybe you could argue that Huhi was holding FBI back. I don't know if that's necessarily true, but if you were like a Huhi skeptic and you thought that was actually the issue there, then perhaps this roster will be really, really good. But either way, it should stay near the top. They've still got Inspired, JoJo, Vulcan. I'd love to see that they've kept the majority of their lineup. Okay, next up, we have 100T. So obviously I've talked about this before, but I think the double lift thing is basically agreed to, and Bjergsen would be there as well. the Tenacity and Busio coming in the top end support position. The one thing was in the prediction. No, actually, it was in the predictions video. The night before, I talked about how Hunter T was in the lead for double. I think it's probably going to be Closer instead of Spica. I think it'll be one of the two of them. But from what I understand, Spica got a much better offer from another team that we will talk about later, and so it's been kind of uncertain. But if I was a betting man, I would put money on it being Closer. I'm just going to keep them both in there for right now because who knows what's going to happen. Obviously, there was a report of Unforgiven coming over. I'm not going to say who it was that reported it because I don't want to offend the person if I get it wrong. But one of the, I think, European journalists got it. And then, so I think that player will end up in Academy. So theoretically, your Hunter T lineup for next year is Tenacity, Closer, Bjergsen, Doublelift, Busio. What do you guys think about that? Let me know in the comments below. IMT. So this, I'm kind of cheating here because I'm filling in with a genre of player versus the players themselves. But Revenge, Kenvi, Olive, no longer at Golden Guardians, will almost certainly be starting as the mid laner and on this team. And then I think they're going to go with NA player for ADC. I don't know which one. There's kind of like a lot of different North American ADCs that are around, right? And so we'll see who ends up in that situation. And I think they will import a non-Korean player in the support position. Dig. Now, Wooloo did get a bunch of this stuff earlier today, so I think we can pretty much confidently say that their lineup is going to be Armut, Santorin, Jensen, Spawn, and Ignar. Very interesting. I would not have expected this from Dignitas. I think as interesting as this roster is, what is more interesting to me is like what the hell went on behind the scenes to actually make them start trying to be competitive near the top. Because I think that this roster could be contesting for top 5, top 3. I don't know. Kind of depends on how you're feeling about Jensen these days and Armut. But yeah, I think this is very fascinating, and I don't know what it means for Dig, but I hope that they're actually going to, like, if they're going to field a roster like this, I hope they put out content and do interesting stuff with it. But yeah, there you go. There's your Dig roster. FlyQuest. Now, this is, I think, where Impact is going. I know it's been reported, I believe, from Wooloo about Vikla going to the mid situation. I think this is probably where Spica ends up. I heard he got a pretty good offer from FlyQuest. And then I believe they will import an ADC. That's like at the lowest levels of I have like 10% confidence. I just assume that's what they're doing there because they would have an open spot because Isla should be their support player. So that's what we're looking at there. FlyQuest pretty interesting as well. Golden Guardians. All right. Pretty confident that this roster is basically locked. Licorice, River, Gory. Now, go look up Gory. He's a LCK player who did get player of the split at one point in time, and then went to FPX and was most recently playing on PSG Talon, I believe. So I think like the connection with River is probably where that ended up becoming a thing. Stixay still surviving in the LCS. And then Huhi. So Huhi making a return to the Golden Guardians through this situation. And I think the sort of Stixay Huhi reunion is probably a reason why this bot lane exists. I'm sure, people will have opinions. Put them in the comments. Finally, CLG. So I might have gotten one of my predictions wrong for my prediction video, which was I thought that CLG was going to change their roster. I think part of the reason why that was the case was because I believe they were exploring Spica and Closer in the jungle position whenever they were both up. Oh, and maybe Santorin too. And then those 3 players ended up kind of getting locked in elsewhere, presumably. Like, because we most likely, I think Spica's going to end up at FlyQuest and Closer will stay at 100T. And so that means that they probably stick with contracts because I don't see an obvious other situation for them. So they might run the full 5 back. And then we will, people who don't watch these videos will never know that there was like a chance of something else happening. But we'll see if that ends up happening. I only have it as a 50% chance right now on contracts because I don't know. Maybe they decided they don't want to do stuff with contracts and they find like another, up and coming juggler or something. I don't know who that would be. Admittedly, I don't pay enough attention to some of the Salt League to know who they could grab if they want to do that. But regardless, this is the full lineup of teams. We've now done all 10 in this. I think some interesting questions here is what happens with Dig? How competitive can they be? Where does Reaper go? Because Reaper has had a lot of success as a coach, and I thought there was a pretty good chance that Reaper would end up over at Team Liquid. It sounds like they just announced Marin, so who knows? I don't know. Either way, we'll continue to do content as we get closer to free agency. Thanks so much to Alienware for sponsoring this video. Please check them out. They've got Black Friday deals going, blah, blah, blah. Click the link in the description below. If you do, it actually really supports me if you end up buying something through the Dell or Alienware website. And also go follow my Instagram, which is also in the description, because Twitter might die, and that would be a big bummer if I had no way of communicating with all you guys. So please follow me on TikTok and Instagram, which will both be in the description.